Hey, hello guitarists, big guitarists and MIDI freaks out there. Come at you today from Seoul, South Korea with our lovely new daughter here who's helping me to explain to you how to connect your VG-99 to the Big Sur operating system. Now who's this video for? This video is for people who have, people who are sleeping. This video is for people who have a new MacBook, a 2021, one of the M1 Macs, Mac Mini, MacBook, MacBook Air, or for anyone who's running Big Sur in general. Now, obviously, if you have one of those new computers, you will have to run a new operating system, so you have no choice. So this might be useful for you. Alternatively, this could be for anyone who's just running Big Sur because they're curious. It's actually a pretty neat operating system. All security concerns and whatnot aside, and Apple ever tightening the grip on our personal information aside, it's a beautiful operating system. It's quite elegant. It's pretty smooth. It runs pretty well as far as I can tell. Now, I initially had a pretty bad reaction to it. The reason I had a bad reaction to it was because I couldn't get the method that I used to connect my VG-99 on the previous operating system, on Catalina, to work at all. But with a little bit of messing around, I finally figured it out. So today I updated to Big Sur 11.2, and we've popped the VG-99 in and just testing it out to make sure that it actually will connect. And the answer is yes, it does. It's all good. And the only... Well, not only, the additional bit of information, which is really quite good news, is that you can actually connect this via Windows or via a Windows virtual machine or via a macOS virtual machine. So the two virtual machines which I'm accessing here, Windows 10 is the latest update, and macOS 10.14.6, which is also the latest update. Is it 0.6? Maybe it's 0.7. Anyway, the label can't be changed. I've been running two virtual machines, and it takes up quite a bit of disk space. Like, I think macOS 10.14.6 is 25 gigabytes, and Windows 10 is maybe 30, 32 gigabytes. So it's quite a huge amount of data to take up simply to run the VG-99 editor. It's the only reason I have it on there. So I'm probably going to get rid of one of these soon enough. But for now, they both work, and I'm going to explain to you how to get those to work. So the things you'll need: number one, you'll need a VG-99. Number two, you will need a Mac running Big Sur. It can either be a new Mac or it can be an old Mac, doesn't matter. Number three, you'll need to have some kind of virtual machine. In this case, I'm referring this all to Parallels desktop. That's the only one I use. I use that because I live in Korea, and in Korea up till a few years ago, you really couldn't access government websites or any banking websites or anything through macOS, through Safari or macOS in general. You had to use Windows, preferably Windows XP. So anyway, that's why I've actually got Parallels. I really needed a reliable virtual machine, and it's super reliable. It works really well. So it's the latest version of Parallels Desktop. I think it's version 15? 16. Version 16. So this is updated for Big Sur. Okay, so first things first, you want to connect your VG-99 to your computer by USB. Now, there are two things that you need to connect. Number one, you need to connect the regular USB, and number two, you need to connect the DIN MIDI ports to a USB adapter. She's sleeping so nicely now. I tried to make this video 3 times and she just kept screaming. Oh, don't jinx it, Daddy. Okay. Oh. Do you like VG-99s or do you prefer SY-1000s? Maybe more of a GP10 girl. I don't care, Daddy. I don't care about MIDI. Okay. Alright, so I've got a little USB hub velcroed onto the back of my VG-99. You can kind of see it there. And it has both the USB things going in, and then it's connected to a little hub to the computer. Now I'm actually using a Thunderbolt 2 to USB adapter because I don't have that many USB ports on my computer, so that's really helpful. Anyway, it works pretty well. I'll probably get rid of this now. Okay, so once that's connected, you can verify that it's connected here in your audio MIDI setup. You can see VG-99 1, 2. It shows up as 2 ports. I'm using it in class compliant mode. Now, if you go into your device's USB settings, you can see the mode should be set to driver mode standard. And if you change that from advanced, you'll have to restart your machine to get the effects to take change. Okay. Now, you need one more thing. You need a baby. Huh? You need a little sleep? You need a burp? No. Anyway, you need one more thing. You need to have some way of moving the MIDI between the two operating systems. Now, previously, when you were using your network MIDI, I would use these live routings, but I have discovered that the live routings don't work, and they're actually not the optimal way to use this in Big Sur. They do work in Catalina only with the macOS virtual machine. They don't work with Windows. So if you've seen my previous video, make sure that you deactivate these live routings, because I'm pretty sure from my current perspective these are no longer relevant. I forgot to put my little headphone in. I hope you could hear everything that I said up till now. It's probably going to get a whole lot clearer now. Too many things to concentrate on. Not least of all this little one. Okay. All right. So first things first. You want to go into your audio MIDI setup. You want to establish a network here. So create a session. I've labeled mine VG-99 MIDI. It's enabled. The local name is VG-99 MIDI. The bonjour name is Big Sur MIDI, because this is the Big Sur audio MIDI setup that I'm dealing with here. Okay, now there's no other virtual machines active at this moment, so you won't see anything here. Now, here's one I opened earlier. Let's start with macOS, with Mojave. Okay, once you've installed your virtual machine, and I'm not going to go into how to do that because you can figure that out from other videos on Parallels Desktop, but you need to have access to your audio MIDI setup in the virtual machine. Let's restart. Okay. You need to have access to your audio MIDI setup here so you can get to the network MIDI. And you also need to have your VG-99 editor installed on this machine. You get the package from the Roland website, put the editor in the library, and on here together. Now, it's the same situation here. I've established a session. I've labeled it VG-99 MIDI. I've given it local name. Well, the local name's the same. I've given it the bonjour name Mojave MIDI. And what that means, okay, now we can see that in these respective machines in the directory, the possible connecting devices have shown up. You having a good sleep there? Oh, not going to puke on me again, are you, like you did before? Okay. Oh, so cute. Okay, so you can see on this side we've got Big Sur, and on this side we've got Mojave. Now I'm going to click connect here, and we've established a connection. There we go. That should show up on both sides, Mojave MIDI, Big Sur MIDI. And one little point here is that you want to make sure that this says anyone. I've found, and I've seen in other videos, people say that if you use only computers in my directory or no one, it just won't work. So that's the main thing. So you've established a network session between these two. I'm going to put this into coherence mode. So you'll see now that the sidebar thing there, my menu bar from Mojave's popped up on the side here. So down the bottom, Big Sur, on the right here, we've got Mojave. You need to, right, so once you've got your network established, you need to find a way to pass the MIDI back and forward between the two systems. Now, as I was saying, the live routings have stopped working for whatever reason. So you've got some options. My preferred option is using my DAW. So I'm an Ableton Live user, and here, I'll just show you this works. I've saved a little device here called VG-99 MIDI. It's a little group device. I'll drag it into my set here, and you can see in here there's a VG-99 in and a VG-99 out port. And it's the DIN MIDI from the VG-99, which is this device here. This is actually the UM1. So I was talking about the DIN MIDI adapter that's connected to the computer before. That's this guy. I've just relabeled it for my brain because I get confused when things aren't clear. So yeah, I've got the DIN to the network and the network to the DIN. And I'm going to establish connection on those, establish movement on those ports. And what you'll notice, how can I make that bigger? When I move if you keep an eye on the little MIDI indicator here, when I move the dial, the jog wheel on the VG-99, you can see MIDI's happening here. Okay, so the MIDI is coming in, and the MIDI will be passing through. Now, if I open the VG-99 editor, it should automatically connect now. Yep, and this is a good sign. When you get the now, comma, getting data, full stop, grammar masters from Japan, you can see the editor screen is populating here, and there we go. We've got a fully functional VG-99 editor. And if I hit the patch list here, you can see that it's fully populated. It's not fully populated yet, but it will be in a second. There we go. It's all loading in. And we can change patches here using the arrows, and you can see on the device there, they're changing, and that's all good. It works perfectly. I've given it a fair bit of a run here, and I haven't had a single problem with it. One key point to keep in mind is if you're using parallels, how do I exit coherence mode? Honestly, I don't know how to exit. There we go, exit coherence. Okay, that's a bit easier. Now, if you go into view here, no, devices, configure. Okay, this is the one I was looking for. On the hardware network settings, and I'll just unlock this so you can see the options. This is actually quite critical. By default, it says default adapter here, but by default, the virtual machine, the operating system in the virtual machine always seems to choose shared network, recommended. And I've actually had a fair amount of problems with this. Changing its default adapter and locking it basically stops the connections from breaking. How are you going there? Still sleeping? Good girl. So make sure you do that. And yeah. Anyway, the point is you've got a fully functional editor here, and it's going to work in parallel with your audio here. So if you're running your VG-99 as your primary audio interface, you're going to have access to the editor at the same time as you're using it in, oh, there we go, at the same time as you're using it to record. Okay, there we go. That looks cozy. Okay, so that's round one. There we go. That's round one with macOS. Now, I want to just quickly show you how this works in Windows, because it does work in Windows now. And you mean there's no Windows available? There we go. I'm just going to disable this network. There we go. There we go. And I'm going to shut down virtual machine. So this just gives you options. It means you can use either Windows or Mojave. Honestly prefer Windows. I'm not really sure why that is exactly, but if size is a consideration, you might want to use macOS because the basic install is slightly smaller than Windows 10. Unless you can find some version of it that's all stripped down. So, same rules apply. Just open your virtual machine. Mine's sleeping. Wait for it to come back to life. Oh, that's interesting. What's going on here? Never seen this one before. Oh, 괜찮아요. 여기 있으면 돼요. Okay, so Windows is up and running. Now on the Windows side, the only things you need to have installed, you need to put in this RTP MIDI by Tobias Eriksson, I think his name is. You can do a quick search for that. It's easy enough to find, it's easy enough to install. And then you need to have the VG-99 editor and the VG-99 librarian installed. You do not need to have the driver or anything installed. That goes for macOS too. You don't need to have the VG-99 driver installed on the virtual machines. Okay, so launch RTP MIDI, and it works exactly like the network MIDI did on the Why do I need two instances? It's already connected. Okay, well let's just, I guess it connects automatically. I think there's a setting here that you can remove peer on remote disconnect. If you don't disconnect it, I guess it just stays connected. Okay, well that's cool. Makes it a little bit easier than macOS. You have to set it up manually every time you go into macOS. Now if I open the editor, keep in mind that my live routing is still active here as the way to pass the MIDI between the two devices. And look at that. It's getting data, it's loading, and it works perfectly. It's just the same as it is on the macOS version. It's pretty fast. In fact, maybe it's slightly faster. I'm not sure. But it works. And if you select your patches here, everything populates on the device correctly, everything populates in here correctly, and you've still got your audio available to you in your DAW. So that's pretty awesome, I think. I'm really happy that I got it to work on, sorry, I don't want to save that. I just want to exit. No, there we go. Okay, and I'm just going to disconnect this network now. Oh, she's up. Are you trying to tell me that you prefer macOS to Windows? I think you might be. Okay, all right. So we're just gonna leave that as is, and I'm going to shut this down. And that's basically that's it. It's solved. Only thing you need to keep in mind again is that it's the same issue with Windows 10. You want to go into your preferences, and not this one, but configuration, I should say. And you want to go into your hardware network and make sure that it's on default adapter. I'm going to lock that. Don't use the recommended one. The default adapter ensures that the connection doesn't break. So there you go. That's how you connect the editor with either Windows or Mac OS, and you can run it in parallel with Live. It's pretty easy, and it's pretty neat. And I didn't show you, but actually if you're using Parallels, you can run Windows also in coherence mode, so you never really leave Big Sur if that's what you want. One more thing I will mention, and I've kind of touched on this in the past, but one of the issues with the VG-99 is that it's a 44.1 kilohertz locked audio device. And that means that if you're trying to use it, say like I was showing you before, I have an Axe FX and a ICA4 Plus that I use as monitoring devices, particularly the ICA4 Plus. It's the primary interface on my desktop. Cool. If I want to use the ICA4 Plus with the VG-99, it's no boogie. You can't have a 48 kilohertz locked device on the output and a 44.1 kilohertz locked device on the input. They just don't jive together. You can try and do stuff with aggregates and whatever, but aggregates mess up screen recording and they can just cause a lot of pressure on your system and unnecessary headaches. So I found a pretty simple solution to get around this, and it's using the loopback software, which you've probably heard me talk about before. I think we're up to date, 2.2.2, okay. And what I've done here is I've created, still sleeping, I've created a little virtual audio input device. It's a VG-99. I've labeled it VG-99 48 kilohertz. And the reason I've done this is because when you go to the MIDI, the audio MIDI settings here, and when your device is active, it automatically opens as a 48 kilohertz device. Now, I don't know exactly how it works. I've talked to the guys at Rogue Amoeba who developed software a little bit, and they said that it would introduce latency and whatnot, but it doesn't introduce enough latency to make it unusable or anything. It's completely usable. It sounds really good. Yeah, so with the 48 kilohertz established rate here, I guess it's resampling. I guess it's resampling on the fly. But what that means is that I can go into here and set my VG-99 48 kilohertz as an input device. And I can set, Telstream as an output. That's locked at 48 kilohertz. And they'll work perfectly together. There's no issue. I mean, this is not the ideal example because it's really high latency. It's for screen recording. But if you were to use say the built-in output here. Okay, that's a multi-sample rate thing, so you can now adjust it from here. But I guess the main point is that if you look at the VG-99 here, it's fixed. You can't change it. If you look at this one here, it can be changed. So if you start putting it into aggregate devices, it will enable you to sort of reclock it over here. So that's a cool little workaround if you're interested in getting your VG-99. Oh, I think she's almost up. That's probably my cue to bring this to an end. So there it is, getting more out of your VG-99 and getting your VG-99 to work with a modern computer and a modern operating system. Okay, I hope this is helpful to you. And if you enjoyed this or found it useful, please like and subscribe if you so wish. And I look forward to seeing you in further videos, maybe next time with a guitar in hand rather than a baby. But my guitar is currently boxed up in the storage space, so we can adapt to this new lifestyle. So thank you very much for listening this far. I hope that you found it useful. If you have any questions, pop them down below and I'll do my best to answer them for you. Okay, catch you later.